They give you $1,000 cash, a MacBook Pro, and a one-way ticket home. So I decided to move to the mainland US. I landed in California and LA at midnight with my bag and my money, and I checked into a backpacker motel. Yeah.
What were those first few weeks like? I mean, are you hitting the casinos, hitting the strip clubs?
Strip clubs, casinos, hookahs, drugs. To find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And if you can go into your subconscious and create a pattern, infuse it with energy that's vibrating at a certain frequency, you can attract things of a similar nature to it. I always tell entrepreneurs to look at energy the same way they look at money. It's a finite resource that needs to be wisely managed, wisely reallocated, and wisely invested. So they always imagine that they'll live forever. But if you knew life was finite, you start making tough decisions. You become good at whatever you practice. And practice also doesn't have the ability to discriminate between what's good and not good for you. So when you have an intense experience in your life, you could say your subconscious mind is heating up. And it's a beautiful opportunity to reshape it. My goal was to take the $1,000 that I had and create a life from it. And not to borrow any money, because I felt that if I borrowed money now, I'd always know how to borrow money. If I knew how to make money, then I'd always know how to make money.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Dandapani, the Hindu priest, speaker, and entrepreneur. After graduating university with a degree in electrical engineering, you left it all behind to become a monk under the guidance of one of Hinduism's foremost spiritual leaders of our time, Sivaya Subramuni Yaswami. For 10 years, you lived a life of serious personal discipline and training at your guru's cloistered monastery in Hawaii. 8 years ago, you decided to venture out to teach your lessons in New York City and the rest of the world and make your spiritual tools applicable in everyday life. Dandapani, welcome to London Real.
Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate it, having me on here on your show.
It's an honor to have you here. I was joking with the guys before that I think it was like 18 months ago. You, me, and Esther Perel were cooking food in a kitchen in Napa Valley.
Yes.
What a scene that was, right?
I know. What a great conversation, too.
Right. Yeah, and we had a crazy conversation and dinner afterwards, and that's how I met you and Joe DeSena and Phil McKernan all through that event. So I'm just really glad to have you here.
Yeah, great to connect again.
Yeah, and I really knew it was important to have you on. I'm sure you meet people all the time that want to spend more time with you. And so there's this sense about you that I just want to get to know you better and listen to you a little bit more, even though you don't have any kind of air that I need to listen to you, but it seems like you have some knowledge. And so that's kind of what I wanted to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you.
That intro probably threw people a bunch of curveballs because that's quite a story. Yeah. But when you hear something like that, what do you remember? I mean, as far as growing up and that whole path that led you to Hawaii?
I would say the biggest thing is that I was very clear at an early age what I wanted to do. I had wanted to be a monk since I was about 4 or 5 years old. And ever since then, it was really a quest to find a teacher that could train me. And I met many wonderful teachers along the way, many gurus and monks, and I went and listened to them talk. And I'd always leave saying, I'm going to do everything they told me to do, which I did for about 4 or 5 days. And then all the inspiration, motivation went away, and I'd default back to who I was. And that's where the problem was. I couldn't sustain the change that I wanted. It wasn't until I met my guru, Subramania Swami, and you said his name really well, by the way.
Thank you, I practiced.
Or Guru Deva, as we call him, which is, and it wasn't until I met him that I finally met someone that had really simple, practical tools and had a very systematic approach to spiritual growth and personal development, and very goal-oriented approach as well. And I loved his teachings, so I decided I'll be a monk in his monastery.
Okay. Now, go back to 4 years old. How do you know at 4 that you want to become a monk? Because there's not really the monk cartoon, the monk action movie. So how did you know?
That was Kung Fu with David Carradine.
Yeah, true. Did you watch that when you were a kid?
I did watch that when I was a kid, but I was a bit older then. But no, actually, we lived in Malaysia, and a Sri Lankan monk had visited our home, and my mom invited him in, and traditionally in our culture, we would give a monk some clothes and some money and some food, and then, wish him well on his way. And as soon as I saw him, I said to myself, that's me. And I really recognized the robes he was wearing, the markings on his head, the beads, and everything about him just resonated with me. And he was my fireman. Like kids grow up and say, like, I want to be a fireman, I want to be this. And that's everything about him just stood out to me, and I said, that's me.
What do you think attracted you to him? Was it a peacefulness about him, or the fact that he wasn't chasing after certain goals?
I don't think any of that. I think it was just more his dress, and I think what it did was it triggered a memory of a past life. I believe in reincarnation, and I believe I must have been a monk in a past life, either once or twice or many times before. And that's why it was so easy for me to want to become a monk at such a young age. But it wasn't until I was actually a little bit older, I think I was 8 or 9 years old, that I realized it wasn't really about being a monk. It was about enlightenment, and that was what I was seeking. The monk was the quickest or most efficient pathway to enlightenment. So the initial trigger was reminding me of the path that I was dedicated to, or am dedicated to. But the goal really wasn't to be a monk. The goal was enlightenment. And that came about because I realized at an early age of, maybe 8, 9 years old, that everything in life is transitory. Everything goes through a process of being created, exists for a while, and then it goes away. Yeah.
That's the enlightenment alarm.
I love it.
It goes off in about 5 or 10 seconds. So.
No worries.
The enlightenment alarm.
That's right.
Stopped.
Enlightenment alarm. So we are enlightened officially now.
I love that. This is a sign, is all I've got to say.
It's a good sign.
I think we were talking about, you knew you were going to become a monk because of former lives.
Yes, and also the point that I think, it wasn't really about being a monk, but at the end of the day, it was enlightenment I was looking for, because one of the things I realized in an early age that everything in life is transitory in nature. So things are created, things exist for a while, and then things go away. And I remember when I was about 8 or 9, my parents were taking me to my cousin's house for the birthday party. Very excited about it. Get to see my cousins and balloons and cakes and play. Get in the car, driving over there, super excited. Played for 4 or 5 hours. Get in the car, driving home. I remember looking out the window and going, it's over. And this is life. Everything goes through this cycle. I remember I was about 8 or 9, looking out the window very clearly one night, and just in the car as my dad was driving us home, and going like, this is it. Everything is created, everything exists for a while, and then everything goes away. What's the constant in life? Because if we're just here on this planet to go through that cycle, and I go like, that's a waste of time. It really is. So what's the constant in life? What is it in life that doesn't change? And I wanted to find that. And that was really the quest of my spiritual path.
Do you think it's rare for young men like yourself to be seeking enlightenment? Or are people seeking it in all sorts of ways? They don't even know that they are sometimes. Yeah,
I don't think it's rare. It's rare if you believe there's only one life. Because then who's calling the shots, right? Why is one kid searching enlightenment and another kid searching something else? But if you believe in the process of reincarnation, that we're a soul living in a physical body, reincarnating, evolving over a long period of time, then one soul has just pursued a particular path and gone down it further than another person has. So for me, it's just the natural next step.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't make me any more special than the next person.
Okay.
It's just what I decided to focus on. So I've just picked up where I left off from my previous life and just kept going.
Okay. So that was 8 or 9.
Yeah.
You were in Malaysia at the time?
I was in Malaysia, yep.
Okay.
And then my family migrated to Australia when I was a teenager. So I did a couple of years of high school in there, went to university, did engineering, met my guru after 2 years of being in engineering school, wanted to leave and join his monastery. He didn't allow me. He wanted me to finish my degree.
How do you meet a guru? I'm sure there's not like an online site, meet your guru, but how do you actually meet him?
On Twitter, just like everybody else. No, there was no Twitter back then. He actually found me. He was visiting Australia and was visiting Perth, where I was living in Western Australia. And my family coincidentally knew his guru really well because his guru lived in northern Sri Lanka in a town called Jaffna and were all disciples of his teacher. So we went to meet him, and it really was love at first sight. And when I saw him, we met each other, we just connected, and he was there for less than 24 hours, and we built a strong friendship. And it was almost as if two old friends were meeting each other again. And
again, some past life stuff.
Exactly, there. Right. I mean, there's some people that you've known your whole life, your cousin, right, for example. You might have known for 40 years that you're not even close with. And then there's a stranger that you meet, and within 2 hours, you feel like you've known them your whole life, and you feel super close to them. It was like that with him. As soon as we met, we were just so connected.
Okay. I did a little research on him. He seemed like a really charismatic guy.
Really amazing individual, quite a story. And just to give you a quick 1 minute insight into his life. So he was born in Lake Tahoe in Northern California in 1927. He was orphaned when he was quite young. His dad died when he was about 8 or 9. His mother died first, and then a year or so later, his father passed away. And he was adopted by a close friend of the family at 10 years old. And she asked him, "What do you want to do in life?" And he said, "I want to dance." So at 10 years old, he was very clear what he wanted. And so he started learning dance. And the people that trained him in dance were mystics from Europe. So not only did they teach him how to dance, but they also taught him how the mind works, how the body works, how his nervous system works, and how energy flows through his nervous system. And so he had amazing mystical training at such an early age in the 1930s. And then by 16, 17 years old, he was the premier dancer for the San Francisco Ballet Company. He was the best ballet dancer in America at that time. Decided to quit at the peak of his career when he was about 18 years old, 18 or 19. Jumped on the first ship to sail from San Francisco, from America to India after World War II. Took 3 months to get there. Made his way to Sri Lanka, studied with a few mystics around there, and then finally gave away all his belongings and possessions, went into these caves in these mountains in the jungles in southern Sri Lanka, and promised himself he would fast and meditate till he attained enlightenment. This was a 20-year-old American boy in the late 1940s, very brave, and then ended up becoming one of Hinduism's foremost spiritual leaders.
Wow. That's
met his guru in Sri Lanka, who brought him into the Hindu faith, initiated him as a Hindu monk, and sent him back to America to bring Hinduism to the West. And so he established the first Hindu temple in America and brought yoga and meditation and the Hindu teachings to the West. And yeah, so led a pretty dynamic life till he died in 2001. Yeah, very blessed to have known him, and I actually lived with him and studied with him. Probably, I would say, the greatest years of my life. And I don't think anything would ever top that.
Right, so you finally found the guru that was going to keep you motivated more than 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, and I really wasn't looking for motivation, Brian. I was really looking for tools. Because people always ask me, "Are you a motivational speaker?" And right away off the bat, I say, no, I don't motivate people. What I do is share with them tools, and I share with them a process and how to define a goal. Because once you have a process and you have a goal and you have tools, then you can apply it in your life and you can lean on your own spine. And my guru always used to say to the monks, "Don't lean on me, lean on your own spine." Because if you lean on me and I go away, you'll fall down. So lean on your own spine. And he gave us tools and he gave us a process and he showed us how to apply the tools in our life so that we can solve our own problems and solve our own challenges and make progress in our growth. And a lot of people in my industry who do self-development and coaching don't do that, because it's not a good business model. A good business model is where you have somebody coming back to you again when you create recurring revenue. So you don't solve their problems and you inspire them because you know their inspiration will go after a few weeks and they'll come back and buy more. It's a drug.
Right.
It's a good business model though.
Okay.
You make a lot of money from it.
And you're trying to provide real tools
Yes.
that can make change. And these are the things you've learned by being in the monastery for 10 years.
Exactly. I don't want people coming back to me. I want them to solve their own problems.
Right.
Figure out their life and use the tools in their life to create what they want. But a lot of people don't do that. And I finally found a teacher that could do that for me. And I'm so grateful.
And so you meet him in Perth. You were 2 years into your degree, but you didn't join him then. You finished your degree.
Painfully, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
On his insistence or your parents?
On his.
On his.
On his insistence.
Okay.
So as soon as I graduated, well, I didn't even wait for my graduation ceremony. I found out that I passed my last exam, bought my ticket, flew to Hawaii, and left it all behind.
How old were you?
23, 24, I would say.
Okay.
And was a traditional Hindu monastery. And what does that actually mean? It means that when you actually go to a monastery, you leave everything behind. So you leave your family, your friends, your relatives, all your possessions. Gave away all my CDs. We had CDs back then. Any money in the bank, you'd have to take it out, give it away. So you basically burn the bridge behind you. You don't leave any safety net that you can go home to just in case monk life doesn't work out. And I spoke to my family maybe twice a year on the phone. Never spoke to any of my relatives or friends again.
Wow.
So it was a real renunciation, and people don't realize what that actually involves.
And why do that? What is the logic behind closing yourself off? You stay on the compound for 10 years?
You do. Sometimes we travel. We travel to other monasteries. My guru would get invited to go speak at certain places, and he would take a couple of monks with him. So every now and then we would leave and travel.
Okay, but
go into town and buy supplies.
Okay, but for 10 years you're not seeing family or friends or anyone. So
No.
it really is a new life.
Yeah, and you live in a cloistered monastery, and it's like almost someone hit the restart button.
Right.
And
which is the idea. Now that's engineered for what to happen? Like, what is the thought behind the existence of a monastery?
Well, thank you for asking that question. Nobody ever asked me that before.
Okay.
The whole reason behind it, and I can only speak for Hindu monasteries, right? Every faith has monks, and they all have different philosophies and different beliefs. But in Hinduism, the whole purpose of monastic life and that staying away from family and friends and material things, it's about conservation of energy. So we believe that energy is always flowing out of us to people and things around us. And one of the ways to get to enlightenment is to first stop the loss of energy. Then you harness that energy from going out of you, you withdraw it into you, you concentrate, and you channel that energy up your spine, into your head.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, learn from the best minds in the world, and connect with a community of passionate people building the best versions of themselves. Just click on the link below, and I'll see you on the inside.